Bitcoin Ekasi is basically an existing non-profit organization that I've been running since 2010, which we moved from a fiat standard onto a Bitcoin standard. In South Africa, we have these things called townships. It's basically a slum. It's a leftover from the previous regime during apartheid. Certain people from certain races were forced to live in certain areas. Generally, non-white people congregated in these areas that we now call townships, where conditions are really horrible. There's no work, people don't live in proper houses, there's no running water, very few people have access to basic things like electricity, pollution is really bad, gangsterism, drugs. So this is the type of area where the kids come from. We've always focused there, even when we started the organization in 2010, because that's obviously where the children are most desperate for help. A lot of them come from homes where there is no parents. Maybe they live with a relative. Maybe the mother is an alcoholic or a drug addict. So there is a school where they go to in the mornings, and then they come to us after school. And we keep them out of trouble. We try and teach them something positive rather than the negative shit that they learn on the street. So with the children that we have in the program, we teach them surfing, we teach them how to be safe in the ocean, and we teach basic literacy, mathematics, language, and Bitcoin. And then we also feed them on a daily basis. So they receive a meal for attending either the surf session or the educational session. We have about 40 to 60 kids that attend 5 days a week. We'll have some children going down to the beach to learn surfing, we'll have some children going to the education center to learn Bitcoin and mathematics and language. But at the end of the day, we try and teach all the children something about Bitcoin, and we try and teach all the children something about the ocean and surfing. Some kids do better in surfing, and they go and surf competitions. Some of the kids are more interested in learning just about Bitcoin. We have a teacher who works for the organization, a qualified primary school teacher. We have 2 surf coaches. We have 3 lifeguards. We've got a couple of junior surf coaches. And they basically run the program on a daily basis. So they'll take the kids to the beach. They'll keep them safe in the ocean. They'll teach them surfing skills depending on the level. The teacher will prepare a Bitcoin curriculum for the day depending on the age of the children. So it's basically it's like a little school. And the subjects at the school is surfing, Bitcoin, and general education. With the surfing program, we've always started really young. We try and recruit them starting from 6 years. We don't take children in the surfing program that are older than 10 or 11. That's just because it becomes more difficult to learn surfing as you become older. With the Bitcoin educational part of the program, we are now taking older children into the program. It actually makes more sense to take older kids because they have a little bit more, intellectual ability. It's actually quite difficult to teach a really small child about something that's quite theoretical like Bitcoin. Like you can show and demonstrate and play with stuff, but to really teach them something about it, it's a little difficult. So the surfing program starts really young, and then it goes all the way up to, we are now starting with an adult class for the Bitcoin diploma. We're using the Bitcoin diploma from El Salvador, from Mi Primer Bitcoin. So all the way from 6 years old until 18 and above. The general monetary situation, there is only one currency that people use, and that's the national currency of South Africa, which is the South African rand. Capital controls in South Africa have historically been very strict, and they are still very strict. It is incredibly difficult to find foreign currency, and it's very difficult to buy and sell foreign currency. It is almost unheard of that people will accept dollars as payment, for example, which is very different from some of the other developing areas around the world. In a lot of developing countries around the world, people want foreign currency. But because in South Africa, historically, it's never been a thing that anyone has used, people generally are not interested in foreign currencies. pay me in rands or nothing. In that sense, Bitcoin is a foreign currency that you're introducing, so it's actually a little bit more difficult. But then again, the reason for the capital controls in the first place is because the government is afraid of losing control of its monetary authority. And so they are quite paranoid because they understand that the local currency is a weak one. It's not a strong currency. They're afraid of capital flight. So even though people are not used to foreign currencies, I think generally people understand that their own currency is not the best option. The main reason people would want to use Bitcoin rather than the local fiat currency is, I think, in our case, in the community where we are based, banking costs is a big problem. Even people who have bank accounts prefer not to use them because, it's like a friend of mine was saying yesterday, you pay just to look at your bank account. Just to look at your own money you pay. So, and you pay for withdraw money, you pay for deposit money, you pay for every single transaction you make. You pay to find out how much money you have in your account. There is nothing that you can do with your bank account that is not costing money. You pay even if you do nothing. So even if you put the money in the account every month, you pay. So if you have a little bit of money, those costs are not something that you want because it feels like you're being robbed. People choose not to use their bank accounts even if they have bank accounts. That would be the main reason. The other reason is also inflation, which is pretty bad. When I was born, the US dollar and the South African rand was about the same, 1-to-1. Today it's 20-to-1. So that's a massive devaluation, not in 1 month or in 1 day, but over a period of 30 years, it's significant. It's definitely noticeable. So that would be another reason. People in South Africa understand that the currency is not a good one. That's why the government is trying to restrict people and keep them away from other currencies. There has been a lot of scams in the country. Convincing people that it's not a scam is one of the biggest challenges. But in my experience, especially with the project that we're running in that community, once people get onto it and they start using it, they are incredibly happy because it's such a superior alternative. The mere fact that you don't pay fees to keep your money in a Bitcoin wallet every month, it's okay, you might lose money to volatility, but you're not really losing money. It's just price fluctuations, but you're not paying fees. It's like, here's the wallet, there's your money, and that money in sats will be the same next month and the month after that. The wallet is not charging you fees for keeping your money there, and they can't charge you fees if it's a self-custody wallet. That is something that people find incredibly valuable. The concept behind a circular economy is that the money that you're using, which in this case is Bitcoin, flows from one person to another, to another, to another in the local economy itself. So one person would actually earn their salary in Bitcoin, and then they would go to the shop and they would buy groceries with Bitcoin, and then the person who runs the shop will go and get a haircut and pay with Bitcoin, and the guy who does the haircut will then take his money and buy groceries from another store in Bitcoin. And so the sats are flowing from one person to another in the local community. That's the idea behind the circular economy. It is happening to some extent, but I think different circular economies have different areas of the circle that are complete and different areas of the circle that are not complete. I think there are very few where it's actually a full circle. Probably the only one where it's a full circle is El Salvador, because Bitcoin is legal tender there. It's a very big challenge to try and actually complete that circle in a local community. But that's the aim. That's the ideal that we are working towards. That's what we are trying to encourage. So inevitably, it's not a complete circle yet, but we're always trying to work towards that. So we want to encourage the shop owner to buy from their neighbor, to take their car for a car wash, and do it all in the local economy and pay for it with sats. That's the idea. And the reason for building a circular economy is simply to inspire people to use Bitcoin on a daily basis. Because if we don't use Bitcoin on a daily basis, it's not going to become global money. And if it doesn't become global money, it's not going to change the world.
Great. Thank you.